review this game. So white play e4, black play c6. Now we have Caro-Kann defense, and white chose to play e5, advanced variation, bishop f5, knight f3, and we play e6. So right now we have a very solid structure, that's good. And white play knight c3. So most of cases bishop d3 is recommended because this like square bishop is really powerful. And in this game white played knight c3, it actually blocked the c pawn. And the problem with blocking the c pawn is the d4 pawn. Once we play c5, the d4 pawn is will become weak. And knight d7, that's good. And g3. So it looks white is going to move the bishop to g2 instead of what I said, bishop to d3 to offer a trade. And if we compare the line square bishop, I think the f5 bishop is better than g2 white bishop, because first of all we target at c2 and we control a lot more space. The bishop at g2 is like aiming at a very solid pawn structure. So I don't think bishop g2 is a good solution for white. But let's move on. And knight e7. I think we can push c5 as soon as possible. But knight e7 is not a problem. We can move c5 later. And c5, yes. So we are challenging the center. That's good. And bishop e3. So here we play c4. This is regarded as a mistake by the chess.com engine, and I agree with that because the reason we push the pawn to c5, we have two reasons. One is expanding our space at queen side, that's true, and another thing, I think more importantly, is to attack the center. Like I said, white didn't move knight c3, so white cannot move the c pawn to support d4. And the thing is, if we can exchange with the d4 pawn, the e5 pawn become kind of isolated, and it's like very close to our pieces. So for example, we can play knight c6 to first of all adding some pressure on d4, and we have these two knights attacking e5. Also open up this diagonal, so our bishop can be developed later on. So the engine suggests another move, which is very interesting. That is bishop g4, and I can see the purpose is we want to pin the f3 knight. And as I said, the f3 knight is a very good defender of both d4 and e5. So once we pin the knight, so these two pawns become a little like threatened. So what should white play? So if white take the pawn, we can take e5. This is center pawn. We basically trade the c5 pawn with center pawn that favors black, and also this knight is pinned. We are also threatening, for example, trade everything. We can push d4 if necessary. So in this case, white could probably queen e2, and we can play knight f3, knight f5. We have a lot of way to move. For example, knight to c6 is also something we can consider to push the pawn to e5. And the reason I think about knight f5 because once we trade the bishop, we can take c5. So we have a very good control at the center. So basically, if we close the queen side, that favors our opponent. But eventually, we still need to create some pawn break to create weakness, open up files. So why not we keep this exchange like as it is, and once we feel ready, we can attack the center. So bishop g4, and I think the engine suggested something from white that's the knight e2, and we can play knight c6, as I said, adding pressure on the center. So we have two knights attacking e5, a pawn and a knight attacking d4. So what can white do? So like if c3, we can keep adding the queen, attacking d2, attacking d4. white chose to castle, and we can take the pawn. So if white take the pawn, we can take this e5. So we won the center pawn. That's a very great achievement in the opening. And if black take with the bishop, I think we can still win the pawn. Like after trading the knight, we can take the e5. So that's the reason the engine suggested c4 is a mistake. So page c4 and castle a6, and white is like exchanging with our knight. I don't think that's a good plan because white used two moves to exchange with our e7 knight. I don't think that's necessary. But let's see. So b5. So we pushed pawn. I think we want to play some like pawn break, as I said, at the queen side to open up files. But as I said as well, so if we have the pawn at c5, we don't have to push these two pawns, right? So we can have this tension when the pawn at c5. a5, 93, bishop g6, c3, b4, 91. So queen b6. I think so far, I think it's still balanced. White is slightly better because the white king is a little bit safe, and I am a little bit worried about like this diagonal. So for example, knight c4. Are we going to lose something? Yeah, so we might lose the pawn. So I think we need to be aware of that. Maybe move the rook to b8. Why didn't find that? Yeah, b3. Okay, so yeah, I don't think. I don't think we need to rush pushing pawns. I think we need to be fully prepared. What do I mean? So can we castle first and move the rook to b file and maybe move our knight to a better space? Now the knight is still far away from these three pawns, and we have bishop. That's good. But the dark square bishop, I don't see the bishop can attack the queen side with like 2 or 3 moves. So my point is, if we push the pawn, it's either white open up this b file, or white like move the knight to somewhere. We can take the pawn and open up the b file. But the thing is, we cannot involve the rest of pieces as soon as possible. So I feel like if I play black, I will castle, because I don't really worry about white taking my pawn, because I have bishop, queen. I have very great pawn structure at the queen side if white take my pawn. And another thing is, after the castling, my rooks are connected. I don't worry about knight c4 because this rook is protected. So I think a very great learning is usually we open up the files or create pawn break unless we are confident to control the files. So I think that's a very important learning. After b3, knight b4. Yeah, this move is interesting and a little creative. I think white is going to trap off queen, and we cannot take with the knight. I think that's, as I said, our rook is handy. If we castle first, we don't need to worry about this move, and maybe we miss the threat of rook a3. Actually, otherwise we can take with the bishop. I think we are still better. And yeah, so we can play rook ba. So if I take our pawn, we can take this one, and if I take this pawn, I think we can castle first. Yeah, so I think we can feel the problem. We didn't castle, so we have to use one more move to castle first, and then move the h8 rook out, or move the rook to queen side. So if we can have both of the rooks ready and then open up files, I think that's better. Okay, yeah. So the rook is trapping our queen, and I think we lost the game. when this move is played. So I don't think we need to move on. I think the learning for this game is about open up files. Should we close the center with c4, or should we keep the exchange, keep the tension at the d4? So at least we should do that from this position, because this is how we can attack the center. And later on, we keep pushing pawns. We want to attack. I understand the intention, but the thing is, we need to open up files when we are ready. So I think that's a learning for this one.